is a valuable skill in many aspects of life and leadership. When we talk about perspective taking, we're referring to the process through which one is able to see a situation from the viewpoint of another, understanding their feelings, intentions, thoughts, or view of a particular situation. It doesn't mean we have to agree with their point of view. However, there is understanding and empathy. One of the things that is clear is that we all have our own perspective or way of seeing the world. For example,
hello, welcome to Talk to Me Tuesday podcast, where we talk about relationships, parenthood, general curses and cycles, trending topics, and occasionally live interviews. Thank you guys for tuning in and watching with me. We are going to talk about respect my perspective. But before we get into that topic, please make sure you show some love and share. And please hit that follow, subscribe button so that you never, ever miss a topic. So, respect my perspective. What does that even mean? Before I get all into the whole spiel of perspective, let me give you the definition. So, perspective is a point of view. It is a particular attitude towards or a way of regarding something. So everybody has a perspective, right? Everybody has an opinion. You have a perspective. I have a perspective. And that does not necessarily mean that our perspectives are going to be the same. You have an opinion. I have an opinion. Everyone has a different opinion or point of view on certain situations. And that can change, right? Based on our beliefs, based on how we were raised and the different things that we have encountered in our life. That can change, and it can decide how you are going to view a certain situation or a relationship. So it's easy to think that the way that we view the world and the way that we see things is exactly how the world is. I mean, when you're going through your daily life and you're interacting with people, it's easy to think that they are seeing the same exact thing that you're seeing in the way that you're seeing it, or that their beliefs are the same exact beliefs that you have, because you're in your head talking and having conversation, and maybe you see something happen and a person is right next to you, and it's kind of hard to believe and understand that you're seeing it through a different lens from that person. It's very, very rare. Like, the chances are minimal that we are going to view a situation or a relationship the exact same way that another person is viewing the situation or relationship, right? Like, you can grow up with someone, you can have a sibling, you guys grow up in the same exact household, same parents, mom, dad, whatever, and a situation, you will have the way that you viewed it and they'll have the way they viewed it. And you guys could be going through the same exact experience, but they are not going to have the same feeling towards it or react in the same way. And the thing is that the reason why the topic is respect my perspective is the fact that when you don't agree with the way that a person views something or their opinion on it, it doesn't have to lead to an argument or to a disrespectful situation. Why can't it be that when a person expresses how they view the situation, it's respected, right? So our beliefs and values create our world and the way that we view the world. And it affects our opinions and our behaviors, as well as how we behave and act in a relationship. The other day, I was talking to my husband about some childhood situation with my mom, and I'm explaining it from my perspective. I'm like, oh, she was mean. Oh, she was this. Oh, she was that. And he has to stop me. And he's like, well, what about how she saw it and how she perceived it? And I had to stop and think, that's absolutely true. I experienced it one way, but I have to also think about what she may have been going through and what she has may have been thinking at the time and how she viewed the situation. I'm thinking, oh, my mom is mean. But her perspective of things and her view of things is that she's a single mom working. I'm acting up in school. I'm giving her a hard time. So, what was her perspective? And just because I have my truth, I have to understand and acknowledge that she also has her truth in the situation. We all have an opinion and we all have a point of view. And we all deserve to have that opinion and that point of view respected. We all deserve to have, if we feel a certain way about something, or if we view it in a certain way, we all deserve to have that particular thing respected. The video that played in the beginning, it showed a man and a girl and a dog, and where the man perceived the dog as being a threat and he was frightened and scared. And the girl, she saw it as something cuddly and loving. And that I picked that video in particular because I'm walking my daughter in the morning and I see this cute little black dog, little fluffy thing, and its owner has it on a leash and everything like that. And I'm thinking, oh, this dog is so cute. I'm oblivious to the fact that she is trying to get away from it. She's clearly terrified. And the moment I'm like, what are you scared of? It's a little dog. Why are you acting like that? But I have to understand that I see it as a cute little cuddly dog. She views it as a dog, one of the things that she's absolutely frightened of. It doesn't matter if it's big or small, cute, cuddly, teacup, poodle, whatever. She does not like dogs. So I have to respect how she views this dog and I have to act accordingly, right? I can't just tell her that she has to view the dog the way I view it. Then that's not respecting her as a person. When people disagree with us, it's easy to think that they're the ones that are crazy or that they're the ones that don't have all the information, as opposed to stopping and thinking, wait a minute, let me see it from their lens. Let me see from maybe where they are looking at things. Maybe they have been through something that has caused them to view what's going on in a different light because they were not raised the same way that we were raised. They were not brought up the same way that we were brought up. So everybody's view is going to be different. When someone is having a disagreement with you, why can't it be that we stop for a moment and think, let me see it from your point of view. Let me see how you are actually viewing this. So in my, on my journey that I like to tell you guys about, I turned 36 earlier this month on the 14th, and I have been on this, understanding journey. I want to understand why I do certain things, why I act the way that I act. I also want to understand how, I view other people, past relationships, friendships, ways that I've interacted, and perspective did pop up. And a lot of the things that I realized is that I was only viewing situations from my lens. I did not stop to think how this other person may have viewed it or how they may have seen things. There was none of that. It was my lens and my lens only. And that is one of the things that I want to stress is that if you are having conflicts and you're disagreeing, and you are trying to get your point across, there has to be a time where you stop and you think, wait, how does the other person see this? What is the other person viewing this as? What do they think about this situation? It cannot be one-sided because then that is not honoring the fact that we were all created different, right? We're all created differently. We all have our own lens and the way that we view things. And we saw that play out when it was the Black Lives Matter situation and we saw the George Floyd situation, and there was a huge perspective block between how African Americans viewed the situation and how other cultures viewed the situation. we saw there that sometimes our perspective was not respected. There was a lot of outcry as to why are they behaving this way? Why are they acting that way with police? Why are they rioting? Why are they protesting? And the perspective was not respected because they could not see past their own lens of how they were viewing the situation. They could not understand that we as a culture have a history of certain situations that they never had to interact with, never had to encounter. So some people tried. I know there were some people that tried to understand our perspective and respect it, but we saw a lot of disagreement with that. There also came a time where Black women and Black men had a disagreement about it. And that's because the perspective of a Black man is not the same as a Black woman. We as a culture have dealt with different things that would cause us to have some of the same experiences, but my experience is not the same as my husband's. The threat of my husband going out during that time was higher than the threat of me going out. Yes, we both, as Black people, have dealt with unfairness with the police, unfairness with different situations. But at the time, his perspective and mine were different. It had to be. And I had to respect his perspective on the things and my perspective on the situation. When I talk to my children about certain situations or dealing with my relationship, I have to understand that the way that I see it is different. And I have to respect that they see it in a different manner. And I have to understand that they have the right to an opinion. And for me, coming to this place in my life, I also understand that if we're talking and we're having a conversation and or a disagreement about something and you don't respect my perspective, then for me, we don't have anything to talk about. We don't have to agree. Don't get me wrong. When you have an opinion on something and you have the way that you view it and I have the way I view it, we don't have to agree. There doesn't have to be where I agree with everything that you're saying in order for it to work. You just have to respect what I'm saying and I respect what you're saying. And if you value the relationship, then a meeting in the middle is what will happen. And you can agree to disagree and also find things that will make both people comfortable. Perspectives need to be respected and valued because you are also showing the person whose perspective you are respecting that you value them and you value what makes them different and you value their opinion on things. If you don't respect what they're saying and you don't respect their point of view, you don't value them and you don't value what makes them different. The things that created this world and the reason why everybody is so different and the reason why you are able to have these great conversations with people or great disagreements with people is because we are all created differently. We all view the world differently. I told my daughter the other day is that if nobody ever had a difference of opinion and nobody ever thought, let me think of this in a different way, then it will be very boring. Everything will be the same. There'll be nothing excitement, nothing new, no new inventions, no new creative ideas that people are coming up with because everybody will be the same. Everybody will see things the same way. We'll be robots, no emotion, no life, no creativity. So we are created to be different. We're created to have a difference of opinion. And it's okay for a person to have a difference of opinion with you. It doesn't have to be an argument. It doesn't have to be people getting offended, and it doesn't have to be a tit for tat where I'm going to one up you. My experience is different from your experience. Yours doesn't matter. Let me tell you about how I'm feeling. It doesn't have to be a tit for tat. You don't have to agree with that person, but you can respect what they're saying and how they are viewing the situation. So I also I learned that if you were raised and there were a lot of fears and insecurities, if you were raised with that, you will already have a distrustful perception of things and a distrustful way that you perceive things. Your perspective will be distrustful. If you have self-love and confidence, you will have more of a trusting perspective. So if you're in a relationship with a person who had an upbringing where there was not a lot of trust created, and situations where maybe you don't call them at a certain time, or you don't check in with them and they start having trust issues, you guys are discussing the situation. That person is saying that, well, I can't trust you because you didn't call and that means you're doing something. And you have the other side of it where you have a trusting perspective and you don't see it as that. Some of the conflicts that we see could be easily resolved if you stop for a moment and you take that person's perspective into consideration. Okay, please help me understand why you see it that way. Or, tell me more about yourself. We always say, like, what's the number one thing that is a failure in relationships and in marriages and friendships and things like that? And what's the number one thing? Communication. Communication. And once you talk to a person more and get to know them more and learn about their story more, you can understand their perspective. I mean, that's, with anything, with a friendship, with a relationship, with the way that you parent your kids, with the way that you handle your coworkers and things like that. I know that it's hard now to kind of communicate more we have social media and like everybody's looking on their phones and things like that. But I promise, if you take the time to have a conversation and take the time to figure out a person and hear their life stories and hear what they've been through and what they're going through, you will be able to respect their perspective more. And you can decide if you accept their perspective or if you don't. You don't have to accept it. You don't have to say, okay, well, what you're saying is right, fact, and all of that. You don't have to, but you can respect where they are coming from. And one of the most recent Talk to Me Tuesdays, we talked about emotional intelligence. And that is on my page if you want to go check it out. But one of the side effects of having emotional intelligence is also being able to change the way that you view things and be open to a different perspective and a different way of thinking. That's one of the good things of having emotional intelligence and why it's important to strive for those things. It's easy to stay in the same spot. It's easy to stay in your same box and believe that how you see things and how you view things is the way that it is. That's easy. You don't have to challenge yourself. You don't have to change the way you're thinking. You don't have to be open to another person's opinions. But I challenge you. I challenge you to be open to another person's way of viewing things and be open to that maybe you guys experienced the same thing. Maybe you went through the same experience, but they viewed it different. They had a different outlook on it. They saw it in a different manner. I could have easily, when dealing with my daughter, I could have easily forced her to perceive it the way I did with the dog and say like, oh, there's nothing wrong. The dog is fine. You don't need to be scared. But then that's not honoring or respecting how she views it. That's not honoring or respecting her. And I truly believe that if in a relationship, parents, marriage, whatever, if you honor that person and you value the difference in them and who they are, you will respect the way they see things and the way they view things. And you'll be open to possibly changing the way that you view things, the way you see things. And that's being open to the idea that the way that you view the world is not the same for everybody. And the way that you see the world is not necessarily fact. It's not truth. What you hear and how you have received everything may not be true, and it may not be factual. It may be the filter with which you're seeing things through, with the filter with which you're viewing things through. So I took on a couple of things that I believe will help out if you want to find out, like, if you're like me and you're like, okay, I have viewed things through my own lens and I have been closed-minded in a sense to maybe how another person received it, and maybe how another person that I was interacting with, how they might have viewed the situation. And I was selfish in the way that I viewed the situation. I didn't even consider their perspective. And when I heard their perspective, I was defensive and I shut down and I didn't even respect it. But if that's something that maybe you have dealt with and you want to change it up and you do want to be open to listening to another person's point of view and also being respectful to that other person, I do have some things that can help with that. So a way that you can be open to people's perspective is learn to listen, break patterns, ask questions. What are you seeing that I'm not seeing? What have you experienced in your past? How can I use this as an opportunity to know you better? Those are some of the questions. And then try viewing the situation or the idea that they are presenting from another perspective. And it's okay if that is how you handle things. And if you choose to accept their perspective or not accept it, that is your prerogative. As Bobby Brown would say, it's my prerogative. I can choose and I can decide if I'm going to respect your perspective. However, I would greatly say that you should respect their perspective. You don't have to take it on as your opinion. You don't have to change your opinion, but you can respect it. And I don't think there's anything wrong with respecting my perspective. So I hope that tonight's episode was helpful. Let's continue to grow together. And thank you for watching.